So I remember very clearly, 2017, I was wrongfully charged and convicted of perjury. And I ended up spending 10 months in the Canadian correctional system. But what I've learned about life is that we learn our most valuable lessons through pain, through the things that we go through in our lives. So I'm just going to share with you 10 things I learned from prison that can help you in your life. 10 things that I learned when it comes to life that have absolutely changed my life for the better since I've been a free man, if you will. First thing, no one thrives without help. When I walked through those doors, if I didn't have my mother, if I didn't have my wife, and I didn't have a few other people taking care of things for me on the outside, I would not have survived. And growing up, I was that kind of guy that always relied on myself, always said, okay, if something can be done, I will do it myself. I'm the one that can do it. I put everything on my own shoulders, but I realized that that is a foolish way to live your life. If you think you're going to do everything on your own, no one is self-made. And anyone who's risen to any level in life will tell you this. They're not self-made, they've relied on other people, and you're the exact same way as well, right? So remember that. Second thing, human connection is the most powerful thing we have. A couple of days into my sentence, I remember being led to that room that you've probably seen on television where you pick up the phone, you're on one side of the glass and your family members are on the other side. And I remember my mother was on the other side of that glass and my wife was on the other side of that glass, and we all just started crying. Not only because of the situation, but we couldn't embrace each other, we couldn't hug. And it showed me that that connection that we have with each other, nothing supersedes that. So you don't need a lot of people in your life, but just make sure that you have a few people that you can be your true authentic self with. People that you can kind of let your hair down, that you can let your guard down with, people that you can absolutely rely on and be yourself around. And don't think that you should be alone or you don't need anybody, because there are times when you might sink into depressive states or you might be down or feel low and think, I don't want to be around anyone. And the weird thing about our human condition is that at the very moments you say to yourself, I don't need anyone, that's probably when you need someone the most. So don't underestimate human connection, and you don't need a ton of people, you don't need a ton of followers, you just need a few people that you can call up and say, hey, listen, can I talk to you about something? Can I connect with you? Can I just have a coffee with you? And do this, meet up with people once in a while. We've spent so much time doing the texting or seeing each other through a screen or doing Zoom meetings or online meetings. Get together with people in person. It makes such a huge difference. We've lost that and we need to get back to doing that. The next thing I learned is that silence is your friend. Now, I'm not a big meditating person. I've had times where I've meditated and I've done it consistently. Sometimes now I just do it for 5 minutes at a time or just have some quiet time. I try to carve out silence in every day. And I learned the importance of that because when I walked through those doors to start my prison sentence, the warden, because he knew I was a cop, he said, listen, we're not going to place you with other people. We're going to place you in solitary. And I was by myself. And at first it was scary. And if you have that feeling where you're like, man, being alone sucks, eating alone, going to a movie alone, whatever it is, just being by yourself, if you feel like it's uncomfortable, just understand that that is normal. I once heard a quote that said that most of our problems stem from not being able to sit in a room alone by ourselves. Most of our problems come from not being able to sit in a room by ourselves. You need time alone, time to think, time to journal, time to be on your own, and you need to learn to be comfortable with that. That's something I had to learn, and I was forced into that situation where I was by myself, but I got to the point where it became something that I got used to, that I craved, that I was okay with. And so even to this day, now I like spending time alone, time to think, time to be on my own, whether it's going out for a walk, sitting down, journaling. Time alone is so important. So make sure you carve that out in your life as well. The next thing I learned is that we are too attached to outcomes, too attached to outcomes in our lives. And I'm not even going to say that I don't fall victim to this at times, but sometimes we're too attached to the outcome of a situation. So we set a goal or something we really want to accomplish, and we're so attached to that we just get blindsided. When I was when I walked into those doors for the very first time, walked through those prison doors, at that time I had to kind of stop a couple of things that I was doing. At the time I was in an organization called Toastmasters. And Toastmasters is an organization where you develop your public speaking, but a couple of times a year they do these speech contests. So you compete in a smaller level and you win round after round after round, and then you can become a speech champion in either delivering a humorous speech or delivering an inspirational speech. Now, I'd gotten to the point where I reached the last round. So I had one round one round two, and one round three of a speech contest. And I had a couple of weeks to prepare for the final round where I would become a speech champion. And between the third and the fourth round is when I lost my final appeal, had to go to jail, and I never got to compete in that contest. And I realized sitting in that cell that I'd put so much stock into winning that contest. So much of my mental energy had been tied to that outcome that I forgot to enjoy the journey along the way. And so much of life works that way. Sometimes you're trying to chase a goal or trying to achieve something, and you get so focused on that end goal, that thing you really want, that you forget to enjoy the journey, and you forget to say to yourself, what if I never get there? What if I never get that result? And you lose your joy in the process. So don't be so attached to outcomes in your life. Enjoy the journey along the way. But in Buddhism, they teach that you should hold on to your goals, but hold on to them lightly, so that if you don't ever achieve them, that's okay too. Remember that. The next thing I learned is that you don't have as many friends as you think. This one was a hard one for me because I used to have expectations of people. And in my book, Rise, I write this quote. I say, expectations ruin relationships. Expectations ruin relationships. I expected certain people to come visit me when I was inside, and I expected certain people to write. Some of the people that I expected didn't. Some of the people that I didn't expect to do anything showed up, wrote letters. Some even actually showed up in person that I never expected to see while I was inside. And I realized that your friend circle, the people that are really your friends, what I call the hot water friends, right? The people that are going to be there for you when it's actually a time that you need them, that list isn't as big as you think. You may think this person may show up for you if you're in hot water, if you're in a jam. You may think that this person is someone you can call at 3 a.m. in the morning, but they're not always the same people. Now, there's a flip side to that. There are going to be times when you're in a tough situation and people will show up that you never thought had your back in that way. So that's the beautiful side of it. But understand this, you don't know who those people are. So don't automatically put some people in the they will show up no matter what column, and some people in the they'll never show up for me column, because you don't know. There could be some crossover there. And so just don't have expectations. It's hard, but expectations ruin relationships. Don't expect anything from anybody. If they show up, pleasant surprise. If they don't, you don't have any expectations from them to begin with. Super important. Next thing I learned is that small things make you happy. In one of my speeches, I always share this story because it meant so much when I actually learned the lesson behind it. And that's another thing. When you go through things in life, the lessons you learn are almost more important than what you go through. Because you can grow through things in life if you say to yourself, no matter what it is I've gone through, if I can take a lesson from this, if I can take something that I can use in my life from this, then everything changes. So when I walked through those doors, I walked into my cell, they give you this like toiletry kit. So the toiletry kit is basically a toothbrush, toothpaste, razor, soap. And what happens is when you walk through those doors, they give it to you, and that's all you have is your toiletries. Now, for me, being black, I needed something that wasn't in that kit, and that is moisturization. I needed lotion, I needed chapstick, and not having anything to moisturize my skin with was absolutely brutal. I would have dry skin, it would be really painful, really sore, and on top of that, I'd have dry lips, and so my lips would start cracking, they'd start bleeding, and there were times it was very painful. About 3 weeks after going through all of that, I was eventually able to get my hands on some chapstick. So small tube of chapstick comes to my cell, guard delivers it. I open it up, I put chapstick everywhere. I was sore, my lips, my face, everywhere. And I look at that little tube of chapstick and I start to cry. I start to cry, and then oddly enough, I start to laugh. And here's the thing, this is why that moment was so important, because I stopped and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm actually laughing for the first time since walking through these prison doors. And that small thing gave me so much comfort. And I realized in your life, when you celebrate the small things, when you celebrate what you have every day can become a celebration. So from that day forward, I started writing down things I was grateful for, things that made me happy, that were small things. And I do that to this day because I want to always remember that in your life, you may be waiting for big things to happen, and it's okay to set goals. It's okay to want big dreams for your life. But if you forget along the way to celebrate the small things, then you won't take as much joy from the big things. The big things are a little bit fewer and far between, but you have small joys every single day that can make you happy. That's why I created a journal that I write in every day, because I want to make sure that I remind myself to be grateful for those little things. So do this. I call it like bookending your day. So at the beginning of every day, whether it's in a journal or somewhere where you're going to remember to do it every day, write down something you're grateful for. Even if it's something that is very small, I want you to write it down, but I actually want you to think about it and feel the gratitude. Because a lot of times we write down gratitude and it's just something you write on a piece of paper. But if you actually think about why you're truly grateful for something, it adds that much more to the process. Now, at the end of your day, something you can do is write down something that went well during that day. So you bookend your days. You start your day well, you end your day well, and those small things that you write down on a daily basis kind of open the door, open the floodgates for you to think of bigger things. And when those big wins come, you'll appreciate those, but appreciate the small things along the way as well. Next thing I learned is that you can either blame your environment or rise above it. I met so many people, interesting people, believe it or not, in prison. Of course, you're going to meet interesting people. I met people that were in there for crimes way worse than perjury that I was charged with. I met people that were in there for the rest of their lives. I met people that were almost finished their sentence. But what was interesting is that I would meet people that didn't like the guards, and they'd complain and they'd say, oh, I don't like this guard, or I don't like the way this person's treating me, I don't like this, I don't like that. And they'd get in fights and they'd get in trouble all the time. And they've decided that I'm going to blame my environment. I'm going to blame everything that's going on around me for my current situation. And at the end of the day, you can blame your environment. You can sit in whatever reality you're in and you can blame it for everything that's going on in your life. Absolutely. Go ahead and do that. And then you will reap the results from that. And external situations will always be in control of your life. You can do that, or you can say, you know what? I'm in this situation, so I'm going to rise above it. I'm in this situation, it sucks, but this situation externally is not going to change who I am internally. And I tried to make a decision to do that. And that led me to the prison school. You see, everybody had to get a job in the prison. And that leads me to my next lesson. And the next lesson is when you add value to others, you feel valuable. I'll say that again. When you add value to others, you feel valuable. I eventually became an English tutor. And by the time I walked out of those doors, I'd helped close to 30 inmates get their high school diplomas. And it wasn't just me. I worked alongside a high school teacher and another tutor. The teacher, of course, was the one that gave them the diplomas, but I would help some of the guys write their essays. I would help them write their parole board letters, help them with their English skills. And that gave me a sense of being able to provide value to someone, to help someone through something. And I even remember when I was released and I was spending some time in a halfway house, I would go to the local YMCA in Hamilton and I'd catch a workout. And one day during a workout, months after I'd helped him, this guy comes up to me. He's working out and he comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I was in the prison with you and you really helped me. I was able to get my high school diploma. I got a job and thank you so much." And that meant so much to me because I realized that I added value to someone and I could see the results of that value play its way out. And it helped me feel valuable. And so if there's some way that you can add value to someone, you can help someone. Every day you do that, you're going to feel good about yourself. And as someone who's been diagnosed with depression and PTSD in my life, being able to say, you know what, I can do something to add a small amount of value to someone else in their life, that's been one of the main things that has helped me kind of rise above the negative feelings and the low points in my life that I've had. It'll help you too, absolutely. Now, the next lesson I learned is that you can adapt to any environment. You can adapt to any environment. Before I went to jail, I thought, I don't know if I could ever survive being inside. And I have to give credit to my psychologist. I saw a psychologist for 9 years, and she used to say to me, all these people are saying, you know what, there's no way you're going to go to jail, you're going to win your appeal, you're not going to end up there. And all these people would try to shield me, and they meant well. But my psychologist was the only person that said to me, "Kwesi, what if you do go to jail? What's going to happen if you do go?" And she made me face that reality in my head. And she gave me strategies. And she said, you know what, why don't you think of what you could do when you're inside, if it does get to that. We hope it doesn't, but if it does, be prepared for it. And when she did that, she has no idea. I mean, maybe she does, but it helped me so much because I wrapped my mind around the possibility of the negative happening. And I almost projected myself into a position where even if I do go there, I can adapt to it. And so in your situation, no matter what it is that you've gone through, you can adapt to any situation. And what I've learned is that you'll build even more resilience. So if you're going through something negative, you're going through hard times or challenges, when you are put into that situation, you realize, wait a second, I can adapt to this. I can thrive to this. I can rise above this. And when you do that, everything changes. Last thing I learned is we take freedom for granted. Oh, I remember when I was released. Listen, I only spent 10 months in the correctional system, but I remember that first drive of freedom, right? I get in the car, my wife's beside me, my mom was in the back seat, and I'm driving on the highway. And can I tell you, highway driving is normally a nuisance to me, but driving on that open highway, just looking at the clear road in front of me, open road, can go wherever I want. Oh man, that moment, I really understood freedom. For the first time, I understood what freedom actually was. Freedom is the ability to do what you want, go where you want, be who you want. And you have that freedom in your life too. A lot of people say, oh, I'm stuck in this job, or I'm stuck in this life, or I'm stuck in this relationship. No. You have the ability to create freedom in your life. And we take small things, small freedoms for granted. I can't tell you how many walks I went on, just breathing the free air, just walking and just absorbing that moment of being free. Don't ever take the fact that you're free for granted, the fact that you get to do what you want to do in this life for granted. These are things that are so precious, these small things. Listen, I hope this helped. If any one of these lessons, please let me know what lesson helped you the most today, because these are things I've learned along the way. I'll share more things like this soon, but thank you.